Greco. We are broadcasting from Pahrump, Nevada, and this is the first program of Garage Boys.
And I'm Andy Alberti. We're at my garage, which actually is more like a storage room than a place to put our cars. But I'm working on that. Now, the idea here is for Garage Boys is to have a conversation with you from our garage, a bunch of guys sitting around just talking stuff about what we see happening in the world and what our lives are like, and I don't know, we just pick out our subjects. So today, I wanted to talk about Barack Obama and citizenship. You know, I have had this theory going some time back when in California, Arnold Schwarzenegger was being proposed as a potential presidential candidate. Now, he didn't live here. Well, I shouldn't, that's not really right, is it?
No, he lived here. He just came from Austria.
Yeah, he came from Austria. And so since he wasn't born here, the U.S. Constitution said, well, you can't run for president, although you might be a very nice guy. And Arnold did a few videos and public speaking engagements where he talked about how much he loved this country. But I thought at the time, now they know that they can't run Arnold Schwarzenegger for president, so what's really going on? And at that time my thought was, maybe this is a test run to figure out where the objections are and where the support is for some future candidate. Well,
Do you remember what year that was? That they were talking about that?
I think I got it here. Around 2000, 2003.
Okay.
Yeah. At least according to what I have in my records. And I'm going to read a little something about what was taking place there.
Sure.
And it says, however, due to his status as a naturalized citizen born in Austria, he would not be eligible to seek the presidency unless the Constitution were to be amended, as proposed in 2000 by your friend and mine, Congressman Barney Frank, the man who ran a male prostitution ring in Washington. He's a Democrat from Massachusetts. And in July 2003, the Equal Opportunity to Govern Amendment, sponsored by Senator Rhino Orrin Hatch. He's the Republican from Utah. I've added a few words in there just to kind of clarify their position.
Isn't Barney Frank the guy who his boyfriend took down Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
It could be,
Oh,
really.
yeah, oh, yeah.
Well, see that? You hear things here you never know anywhere else. So on his campaign team were actor Rob Lowe, a Hollywood Democrat, but a moderate. A moderate to me is still a socialist, liberal, progressive, because that's the way they look. And billionaire moderate Democrat Warren Buffett, God bless his pea-picking heart, and moderate Republican George Shultz, a former Nixon and Reagan aide. However, when asked if they would support Schwarzenegger if he could run for president, 50% of the people said they would oppose, while only 26% said would to support the governor in a presidential bid. Actually, this was a serious thing at that time. And Arnold used to say, if I was American born, I would probably run for president. I could do a better job than these guys can. Trust me. I think we're hearing some of that right now.
Oh, the word trust me is on everybody's lips.
So he's used to pulling enough weight to secure any role he wants, but he's not eligible for the country's top job because of the Constitution's natural-born citizen clause for the office of president and vice president.
I'm going to tell you something that's very funny. In the movie Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone, they talked about Arnold Schwarzenegger being president, and Stallone, because he was in cryovac for years, said, how could that be? And they said something about the 27th Amendment or something like that. So it was in a movie back in the early 80s.
Wow. Well, I guess this has been going on for a while. So I looked at that at the time as a dry run to figure out how they might be able to put somebody in who they wanted that was not a natural-born U.S. citizen. And lo and behold, comes Barack Obama. They must have had to search long and hard to find this guy. Record keeping provides a trail. So Obama's record keeping was not exactly, it was easy to challenge whatever the facts would be, because being born in Kenya and being registered as born in the United States would create such confusion that those who supported having a foreigner, not a natural-born citizen, as a potential presidential candidate, well, you know the rest of the story. So I believe this began in earnest with Schwarzenegger and materialized with Obama. Arnold was a dry run to test the waters. Obama was the success. And I do believe Trump is right. The man was not naturally born in the United States. They found someone who was so close to natural born where the argument could be made for citizenship and that they could control. The rest is history. They made a mulatto, a 50-50 black and white mix, into a black candidate, and he won. I often wondered, how come he couldn't be a white candidate? He was a mix of 50-50.
Because they couldn't make history if another white person got elected. It was the first black man to be elected.
But he wasn't.
Well,
That's like saying I'm the first Italian to be elected when I'm 3/4 Polish.
but this is where we get not being politically correct. And I've learned from certain jobs that I had that blacks feel that they're superior to white people. So if a person is half white, half black, they will always say that they're black because they feel that they're superior.
I don't think they feel they're superior. I think that all this issue of slavery and other things that have happened to them, they're looking for someone to come along that says, look you're just like the rest of us. You want to have a nice life. You want to have enough money to be able to afford the things that make for good living, and you'd like those opportunities. And I think it's a falsehood when the Democrats come along and try to make it seem as though their lives could be better. And yet, look at how many blacks get killed just in Chicago alone. And who's in there protecting them? Rahm Emanuel?
And all their gun rules, all the rules that they have that they can't have guns there. And it only goes to show you gun laws don't protect anybody.
So I want to say something about this before we get any further along, Anthony.
Sure.
I have not a racist bone in my body. I was raised originally in Manhattan and Queens, New York. I lived in the country. All my friends were all kinds of nationalities. I had businesses where I hired people, and I could care less the color of their skin, their nationality. What I wanted to know was, could they come into my business and help my business succeed? That was the only thing. And I do have people from the past who have written to me every once in a while, kind of sparsely, but every once in a while, telling me that I inspired them. And I don't want to give their names out because I don't have permission, but I can tell you that what we talk about has nothing to do with racism. It has to do with just looking at the realities of life. Wouldn't you say, Anthony?
Yeah, I would say it's just that it's our opinion on how we lived and what we see, and our take on what's going on. That's the whole what this is all about.
And sitting out in the garage is an easy way to do that. It's uncompromising. It is
Very cost effective because we have no studio.
we're running a big budget program here, and we don't even have a camera operator this week. But in the future episodes, we will have somebody to run the camera. So I need to get up for a second while Anthony. I don't know what you're going to tell him, Anthony, but I want to go get us some coffee.
Sure, that's no problem. Coffee's a good thing. Race has nothing to do with the way we look at politics and live our lives, because we're all humans. and that's all that counts. And it doesn't make a difference if you're hanging off a cliff. If a black man saves you, a white man saves you, or even a bear saves you. We're all humans. Remember how you felt on 9/11 and the day after 9/12, that it didn't make a difference. We were all Americans. And it was the Americans against whoever did this to us. So race should be washed away from all kind of political views. I'm tired of hearing during the presidential race, the president, Hillary is getting blacks to vote for her, and Hispanics vote for her. And I don't think that you should group a race of people and separate them like that. I don't get that. People say, oh, you're an Italian American. No, I'm an American of Italian heritage. First of all, I'm an American and I'm very proud of it. Yes, do I have my family is of Italian descent? Yes, all my family was born in Italy. I'm first generation in this country, and born in this country. And so race shouldn't play the part of everything. That's the media, the mainstream media, playing everybody against each other. So if you're black, you should be voting for Hillary. If you're Hispanic, you should be voting for Hillary. No, you should vote what's in your head and in your heart and who you feel is the best candidate. Not because they're separating, well, if you're black, you should be voting for this person. You're Hispanic, you should be voting for this person. First of all, I'd like to know what Hispanic is. There's no such race as Hispanic. They just tried to put Spanish, Mexican, Puerto Rican, and any other people of a Latin background, a Latino background, into a group. It shouldn't be like that. It should be, and when you talk to most people and you say you're Hispanic, they say, no, I'm Puerto Rican, or no, I'm Cuban. And just like the situation with me, I'm not European, I'm an American of Italian heritage. So you can't put all the people in Europe as European. They come from different countries. But what I feel has been going on in the world lately is they're looking at this whole global aspect to get away from borders, so you don't have a loyalty to your country. You have a loyalty to a global regime, which I don't believe in at all. Thank you very much.
I want to add something to what Anthony was saying. Yeah, I don't know. I like to look at. I don't take things as we look at them today. I like to go back a little bit in history, because the record of history is how we figure out how we got to where we are today. And today, everybody looks at the Republican Party, and the people that call themselves conservatives are against the black people. They're against other religions, which I think is the farthest thing from the case. The way I see it, if you go back in history, you'll find out that today's Democrat Party is the one that started putting everybody into categories, so they could then target those little categories rather than putting us into a homogeneous society where we all participate. And if you look at it, every time they've gone, look at when Barack Obama got elected. He hasn't really improved the well-being of most Black Americans. They're actually worse off today than they are. I'm not better off today than I used to be, but I'll tell you what, there's a lot more things that we can do today to talk about how we are, whether we're better off or not, just like this video.
See, the thing is they make stuff think that your life is better because you have the internet and you have these cell phones that you could do all your business on. That doesn't make your life any better. It actually is more controlling of your life, because most businesses, if you don't have an email, they won't even, well, what's your email address? Well, I have a telephone. Call me on the phone. I don't go to my emails every day. I'm not regimentated into doing what they tell me to do.
I'm gonna get to the point where I don't wanna hear from you on the phone, because you could disguise your voice. I want you to be on Skype.
Yeah.
Call me on Skype. You know, WikiLeaks, I wanted to go to WikiLeaks for a second too. WikiLeaks went in, and I don't care how they got the documents, but they got documents that show that all the things we're being told by the politicians, and I don't care who they are, isn't true. They tell us one thing and then they do something else. And I can remember one guy in, let me go back a second. The fact that WikiLeaks got those documents, whether they obtained them through surreptitious means or legal means, I don't really care. What I want to know is, what were these guys thinking that are campaigning for office? And how does that affect me and the people around me? And now it's coming out as a result of those things, and some videos that people have taken with hidden cameras, that these guys are lying to us. They're telling us one thing to our face, and then they're doing something totally different behind our back. Don't you find that?
Oh, that's a definite. That is a definite. Just with, and I'm not sitting here picking on Hillary, because yes, do I want Donald Trump to be president? Yes. Why do I want him to be president? Because he's not Hillary Clinton. That's the key reason why I want Donald Trump to be president, because he's not Hillary Clinton. Plus, one of the things he said at his last debate was he believes the Constitution should be followed the way the founding fathers wanted it to be. And let me tell you something, whether we have technology or not, and the Constitution is not a living document, it's something, it's a roadmap designed to keep our country safe, secure, and prosperous.
You know, when they say the Supreme Court's gonna, we'll see that somewhere, they're calling it already, Anthony.
Yes, they are.
When they
They're
find out.
telling us to get away from the camera.
When the Supreme Court goes in and interprets the Constitution, I don't want them to change the meaning of the Constitution. I want them to look at the circumstances when it was written and why it was written the way it was. And it's my personal belief, and I think I'm right about this, because 99.9% of the times I'm right.
Okay.
It was
That was
written with a,
sarcastic, okay.
it was, somebody's got to say it.
There you go.
It was written with an understanding of human nature. When you look at what's in there, it isn't the government telling you how you should live. It's telling the government how they need to back off from becoming too involved in our lives.
Correct.
And go back and read it. There was a time when I was 40. Yes, I can still remember back that far. When I
Did
always
they have
thought,
electricity?
I think in Europe.
Okay. They didn't have video cameras, I know that.
Yeah, that's for sure. I can remember thinking, you know, the government needs to tell me what to do. They're giving me all these laws and rules and regulations. It's telling me how I should live. And then I met a fellow named Marvin Roby. Marv wrote a book. It was a good book called Free at Last, and Marv went into all these different details about the Constitution. But it was this guy, Marv Roby, who set my thinking straight. The U.S. Constitution was not meant to tell us what to do. It was to restrict government, and it declared that we were sovereign citizens, every single one of us. And you'll hear lawyers tell you, oh, no, there's no such thing as the sovereign citizen. But you got to go back and you got to read history. So when they did that and wrote the Constitution, we as sovereign citizens, just like the King of England, gave up some of our powers that were God-given, let's not say God-given, from the Creator. When the Creator, whoever that is or whatever that is, gave us all those powers and rights, we allowed some of those to be given up, which is why the Constitution is written the way it is, so we could live more harmoniously without a lot of anger and grief.
Pretty much.
Is that a safe?
It's safe enough, yeah.
So that's what we're looking at, and we'd like to see it get back to that. Now, the first time I heard Donald Trump speak, which was, I think, the first time he was on TV, I told my wife, I said, you know what? Donald could be president. He's telling it like it is rather than the BS that we get from everybody else. The BS, I look at the newspapers. I read the newspapers. They never name names. You want to know who did something? Put the name in the newspaper. Don't tell me the staff wrote or some unidentified source or a representative from the legal department in Washington. No, no, no. Give us the names. And right now, I'm not liking the names I see.
Well, one of the reasons why they don't give the names is they expect the people to put in the name to fit that story of a person that they don't like. So if it's something negative, it's going to be somebody they don't like said it, and if it's something positive, it's going to be somebody they do like. So they're actually playing with your mind to figure out what's going on. And the easiest thing is just plain facts and truth is the best thing. Excuse me.
I get the feeling that the newspapers, well, it isn't even just a feeling, this is the truth. The newspapers don't want to print those types of things because they have advertisers. And if they make the advertisers angry, then they won't get the monies they need to stay in business.
That's
Now,
correct.
that's the basic bottom line here.
Yes.
So when you read the newspaper, I wish they would at least write it so you could read between the lines and know what's really happening.
Now, we live in a very small community here. It's very large in size, but population is low. And we have that same problem in our local little newspaper that maybe has 2,500 circulation, that they are afraid to write certain things because it may go against what one of the casinos thinks, and then they'll lose their advertisement. And when you have to avoid the truth to make money, how free are you really? That you can't express and feel and give your opinion because it's going to cause you to be bankrupt. That's a crime in itself. That your business depends on making other people happy, and not with product or service, but with a story to make other people happy so you could stay in business. I don't have that opinion. I turn around and say how it is. If you like it, fine. If you don't like it, that's fine too, because I believe in the Constitution. I believe that you should freely think and speak how you feel. As long as you're not telling somebody to go out and kill that person because they're no good, your opinion is fine and what you say is fine. I'll give you for instance, I was in Vegas the other day. I had to go take care of something, and I have Trump sign on the rear window of my car. I had 3 Hispanic girls pull up alongside of me, flip me off, and curse F Trump, screaming it at me. And
I
then,
think that was wishful thinking on their part.
I have no idea. So, and they made sure that when the next traffic light, they did it again. And I only acknowledged by looking at them, just looking at, didn't smile, didn't make a face or anything, because that is their opinion. I believe that their First Amendment right was if they wanted to say F Trump and flip me off because I like Donald Trump, they have the right to do it. Now, if they were starting to throw stuff at my car and damaging it, then that would be a problem. But just by them verbally saying that and flipping me off, I didn't have a problem with it. It didn't even make me angry. A matter of fact, with the person that was in the car when we went forward, I grinned. He said, "What are you grinning about?" I said, "Because you know what? They thought they aggravated me, and they didn't. They had every right to do that."
Now, see, when they said that, I would have gone, for me? But there is one, we're going to kind of close out here in a minute or two. I wanted to talk about one thing, Anthony. People, when they run for office, some people raise a lot of money and some don't. Now, we have a campaign going on here in the town of Pahrump. And one of the candidates has raised $229,000 for a seat that only pays
$2,200 a year. It's a 2-year term.
$22,000.
No, it's $2,200.
$2,200?
Yeah.
Whoa.
He should have took the $200,000
And there's a guy running against him who hasn't gone out and raised any real money. He's spending his own money. That's a fellow named Dennis Hoff, and the other fellow's name is James Oscarson. So now James has got his, let's call it his hooks into local government here, and I don't think James is a bad guy. He's just looking out for James more than anything else. And he just voted for this big tax increase on business.
The biggest tax increase of the state's history.
Yeah, and he's a Republican, and he's supposed to believe in smaller government. This is a huge expansion of government, and now we're hearing people writing into the newspaper, actually the news reporters are writing about what people are saying, and that is, well, listen, maybe we should just have a business income tax. Uh-oh, we moved here because there wasn't one. We moved here because there's no state income tax. The biggest thing that damages people is income tax, because government can decide whether you owe money or not, whether you do or not. So I think the first thing anybody watching this video should do is go online in their state or their town and look to see how much money is being raised by your political candidates, and then figure out who they owe allegiance to, because I guarantee you, the more money they raise, the less allegiance they have to you as a citizen.
That's correct. The problem is politicians are just like that, politicians. We're looking for people to be in office who are statesmen, who are there not for their gain, because they want to do something for the community. And when most politicians say, well, we're doing it for the kids, beware. Okay, when I ran for office, I didn't do anything saying it was for the kids. I did it because I wanted to make my community better for everyone of all ages. And I ran for office that didn't pay anything. And that's why I did that, because I wanted to do stuff that was good for the community. To sit down and look as a businessman how we can make the community better without overtaxing the citizens.
So with that, the next video we're going to do will be about two things. It will be about the sale of some assets from our local utility, which is Valley Electric, and about the water situation here in our town. Because right now, those are two serious issues that we're facing. So with that, Anthony and I are going to say
Good
so
morning, good night, and we'll talk to you again.
And since we don't have a cameraman, I have to go turn off the camera.
Well, you could edit it out.
Yeah, oh yeah, right. Well, here we are with another episode of Garage Boys, coming to you directly, this time from Pahrump, Nevada. Pahrump, Nevada, by the way, is the home of the Chicken Ranch. It's the home of, what is the other one that they have here?
Sherry's Ranch.
Sherry's Ranch.
I used to
And
be in
what-
charge of security there.
And what's the one in Crystal? The Love Ranch.
No, Love Ranch is in Lathrop Wells.
Oh, well,
The
whatever.
Cherry Patch,
The Cherry Patch?
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
the
Cherry
Cherry
Patch, yeah.
right.
These are all houses of prostitution.
which is legal in the state of Nevada, certain areas in the state of Nevada.
Yeah, areas that have a certain lower population, so.
Population under 100,000 in the
Yeah.
county can have prostitution here.
So one of the fellows running for office for the assembly here is a fellow named Dennis Hoff, and he's running against an incumbent named James Oscarson. So we mentioned this little campaign going on at the previous video, and I just wanted to say one thing. If I'm going to get screwed by the government, I'd at least like to have somebody in there who understands the business,
Okay,
and that would be Dennis.
okay.
Dennis actually is a libertarian.
Mm-hmm.
And he's very conservative, and he has not been out there asking for money from large donor groups as James has. Most of James's money has come from out of the area.
A
Well-
lot of money came from casinos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? They're buying your vote on future issues and your support. We need to find a better way to do these campaigns. In England, they only run for 2 months? They have a vote of no confidence, and then they decide who the candidates are going to be, and they got 2 months or whatever it is to get They message out and then they vote.
And that's good because these elections are the only people that make money on these elections and is prosperous is the news media. If you saw some of the local TV in Vegas, it's disgusting. The commercials that they're running over and over again. I'll take, for instance, one thing. Donald Trump said something about a reporter who was handicapped. He said it once. Did it hurt somebody's feelings? Maybe. But the other side is running that commercial 12 times an hour. Now, do you think Donald Trump saying that once hurt somebody's feelings? Well, how about people who are handicapped seeing that 12 times an hour? Who's causing that problem? The people that are using it or the person who said it?
Well, I think what the guy did was not Trump, but the person he was talking about, he did something that wasn't right either.
Exactly.
And that just got a free pass. You
Of
think
course.
because you got some kind of handicap you can go around and say that crap? I don't think so. You get what you deserve. And that's what happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's not something I would have done. But
and don't forget, he was talking about a public figure. That's happened with me here locally. People said some horrible stuff about me, and the judge says, well, I can because you're a public figure. And I says, well, how am I a public figure? He says, well, you have a radio show and you ran for public office. But I never held that public office because I lost the election. So how am I a public figure? Right? You ran
are
for
you
office.
asking me how you're a public? I don't know.
You know.
Because you're out there in the public. You're speaking your mind, you're talking to the public, they're listening to you.
Well, I guess so, but you still should not. You could say something about a person, but you can't say something with malice about a bad person.
Right, if it's the truth, it's the truth.
Right,
Some people don't want to hear the truth.
right. And you're
They
going to hear the
can't
truth
handle
here.
the truth.
Yeah, you're going to hear the truth here.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and you're going to get some of our opinion also.
So let's go on to some truth.
Okay,
Let's talk about our electric company.
okay.
The history of our electric company was in 1965. They consolidated with Amagosa so that they could provide electric power, bring electric power to this rural community. We're about 60 miles north of Las Vegas. Actually, a little less than that, but it's easier for you to remember 60 rather than 53. Try and keep it simple. So they did that, and they set up a set of bylaws and rules about how the cooperative, it's a cooperative, it's called Valley Electric as a cooperative. And the purpose of it is you are a member of this utility. It's not like being a corporation that some other entity owns. Every time somebody signs up to get electricity in their house or their business, they become a member of the cooperative. Now, being a member of the cooperative means that you have a board of directors that you elect, and they are supposed to make decisions on your behalf to bring in power at the lowest cost possible and at the best service. Am I?
Yes. One of the things is how these things in rural communities were able to start was the government, because they didn't have companies that would bring money into a place like this, because actually in 1965 there was probably about 200 people here. So no business is going to invest millions of dollars into bringing electricity and running wiring everywhere for 200 people. It just doesn't make any sense because there's no money. So the government came up with some kind of grants to have these rural cooperatives start. That's how it really worked out.
Right.
So the federal government was able, so we didn't have electricity here in Pahrump until 1965. Now, 1965 seems a long time ago. I was born in 1955, and I don't know what century you were born in, but 65 is pretty short
I take
of time.
offense to that, Greco.
It won't be the first time, and it probably won't be the last time. So
I'll sue.
the point is these rural communities couldn't grow because there was no power. And people really had it rough right here until 1965. I mean, they would actually drive into Vegas and buy big blocks of ice and cut them up and put them into these rooms in different houses where they would keep their food. I mean, it wasn't like a refrigerator, but it kept it cold enough that the food wouldn't go bad.
Well, actually, they had generators, and they would fire up the generators when they needed power.
You're right.
And then when they were done, they would turn them off.
Like to pump water out of the
Sure.
ground until they had
Stuff
enough
like
of
that.
water. So you're talking about a very, for a person like for me from Staten Island, New York, that didn't, I mean, in the early 1900s, before I was born, they were more far advanced than we were here in 65.
Yeah.
You know, so it was allow rural communities to grow.
So with this electrical power, the community started to have more people moving in very gradually at first. And there was a time just before I moved here, I was told that people used to move here to hide from the IRS, from law enforcement. And
Mob.
that probably was true. The mob, yeah, yeah. And some were actually probably bleaching out in the desert here. But we joke about it, but that's kind of some of the past history here. There was a book written called The Nye County Brothel Wars, and they went into some of the corrupt ways that people were treated in those days.
By law enforcement
But
and
going
people
back
of
to-
power.
Yeah, but going back to the question of Valley Electric here, Valley Electric, when I first moved here, the electric rate was 7.5 cents a kilowatt. And that was a good rate,
What year was that?
2002.
Okay.
And that was a good rate. Today, we're at 12 cents a kilowatt. And the last increase came in July, and that increase, we're being told now they can stop that increase if we vote in favor of the sale of one of our major assets. We're going to be rich. But it was never really properly explained to the people who live here. And let me give you an example. There was an item that they told us about, and it's all in writing, that they were going to get a donation from the buyer of $5 million to, what is that, the Valley Electric Foundation. And then further down, there was another item that said, we're going to get a $10 million community center. So I went to the meeting thinking, well, if they're going to spend $10 million for this community center, why, and nobody's asking them to do that, why don't we just give that $10 million to the rest of the members, like they did the first one? It would double the the money that they were going to give us as a bribe. Well, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here. So I asked the question, why don't you just give the $10 million you're going to use to build the community center to the members?
Right.
The answer was, oh, well, you don't understand. The $5 million that's going to the foundation is going to be used to build the community center on our property, which is worth $5 million. And that's how you get a $10 million community center. So that was a bit of sleight of hand, if you will. It was not written so that you would really get it until somebody asked the question.
Speak with forked tongue.
Yes, and in the same list of things, you were going to get each person who signed up to have power from Valley Electric, whether you sign up that day or you signed up 10 years, 20 years ago, was going to get $579 each if they passed the vote to sell the power line. You want to take some of that story?
Yeah, that is a power line that's only been in for the last 5 years. It runs pretty much around the valley to bring power in. I think it's a 600 amp service that runs through there. It runs right past where I live. But the problem here is why would you sell that? You built it for what reason? You built it to make our community have power better, less power failures. We had a lot of bad power failures here.
I had them every month.
Yeah, and actually sometimes we were without power for days.
Yes.
So you couldn't You know, when you're talking about that, you couldn't pump your water out of the ground. You couldn't heat your water to take a shower. It was rough. So we thought that those lines, when they spent all those money, and they borrowed tons of money to do it. Now what they want to do is they're trying to say that they'll get out of debt by selling it, pay off all the loans that they borrowed to build it, get rid of that, and give us this community center, give everybody $579. Well, the question I have is, well, the $579, is that going to be just a small percentage of what the rates will be when the people who own the power lines are going to say, well, we need more money to maintain those power lines? Now, the co-op says they're going to keep maintaining the power lines, so they're going to get paid by this company. Everybody has to make a profit, so things are going to go up. Also, when you're part of this co-op, you're supposed to get so much money each year on the amount of profit that was made. Now, some people here have never gotten any money. Have you?
Not to my recollection.
I've gotten 2 checks. Once was for $53, and a couple of years later I got one for $241. And people were in shock saying, you got a check for $241? I said, yes.
Who do you know?
I don't know anybody. That's probably why I got it. The key was, why are they going to give $579 one-shot fee, and to get you to vote, they're staying in Walmart, Smith's, and other locations and giving a person a $10 gift card to vote. Now, that sounds like you're trying to twist somebody's arm or bribe them.
I like the term bribe myself.
Yeah, bribe is pretty good.
It's not an incentive.
Right. To turn around, and now let's put it this way. If you hear we're paying 12 cents a kilowatt, if you're on the other side of the country or in a big city, you probably laugh saying, oh, I wish I could pay that. But remember, this is a very rural community. The average person in this community is working for minimum wage. That's why things are down. There's no real big jobs here that pay more than minimum wage other than government jobs. The government jobs in this community is, if you have a government job here, you're doing pretty good. So 12 cents a kilowatt is not a lot of money to most of the people that are watching this. And don't forget, I do come from Staten Island, New York, where electric rates are out of control. Most of the time in the summer, your electric bill is between $700 and $800 a month because of air conditioning. My bill is considered high, between $200 and $300 a month here.
So let's go back to this question of should they sell the power line or not. Valley Electric set up a period for voting. It was 30 days in which they had to get 2/3 of the members to vote yes to sell the power line. Well, the meeting was last week, what was it, Tuesday? Thursday? Yeah. And it turned out they didn't have enough votes. They were about 500 shy.
So they said it was a computer glitch and they're going to have to run it further until into November.
So they came up with an excuse. No matter what Anthony says, they came up with an excuse. And the excuse was, well, since we didn't get enough votes, we're going to extend it another 30 days until we get enough votes. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when somebody tells me the votes got to be done in 30 days, I will take them at their word. I will believe what they say. And when the vote tally is done on the day that voting ends, they decide to extend it. Now, I think they should have started from scratch and gone out once again.
Correct.
But that's not what they did. So now we have a presidential election coming. If Trump doesn't win, I want to extend the election until he does.
Until we get more people to go and vote?
Yeah, with more people out of the cemeteries, more people in the prisons, and I definitely think the cemetery vote would be voting for Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah. You know, it's funny we're talking about this, but the vote ended on a Friday. And I turned around and told everybody, I guarantee you that they're going to extend it to Monday because people are mailing in their ballots and they're going to say to mail. And as long as it was postmarked by the 14th, we could still count it. So I figured they would extend it from Friday to Monday. I never expected them to go an additional 30 days.
And I looked today, they're within 165 votes. They're going up to people at the supermarket. In some cases, they've gone door to door. And if this is a secret ballot, I can't see how that's gonna be a secret.
Oh, no, they're voting right there, no. Because they can tell you, when people ask them, I said, how many votes you got? And the last time I did that, I think it was the last day. It was the 14th on a Friday. And he says, we're 800 votes short. I says, oh, you'll get them. By the time they get the mail-in ballots and everything, they'll get them. And they didn't get them.
You know what I find interesting? I don't want to give the impression that we're not in favor of the sale. We just don't know if we're in favor of the sale. There hasn't been enough open discussion about the reasons for doing this. We know one of the reasons is to pay down the debt that they're carrying.
Correct.
But it's not really been well explained. And what's going to happen, we have to look a little to the future as to, once we give up this asset, what's our risk?
Correct.
Because in 20 years, Valley Electric is going to maintain this power for 20 years. We don't know, is that contract already in place for Valley Electric to maintain these power lines that they're selling? Or is that subject to negotiation after the sale?
Well, I think at one of the meetings that you missed before time,
I miss a lot of meetings.
well, that was before you were an ambassador.
Oh.
It was an ambassador meeting, and they said that they had the contract to maintain those lines for that company.
How could they have the contract to maintain them when they haven't sold them yet?
Well, because you always have to have, when you sell, what the agreement's gonna be before time.
But what I'm hearing is that the contract isn't even fully signed yet.
Right, but everything's supposed to be in place. I mean, it would be ridiculous to turn around and sell something and not know what the future's gonna hold for you. You know, money, what's the difference if you're gonna make $10 million or $100 million? It's gonna cost you $200 million. It wasn't worth getting $100 million.
Sure. And we're being told that it'll bring rate stability to us for the next 10 or 20 years. Well, I don't see where that's a guarantee. And who's going to guarantee that?
I don't think they could do that, because when you're buying power, because we don't forget, this co-op doesn't produce power. We buy it.
Yeah.
So how they could say that they're gonna have rates stable for 10 or 20 years? That's impossible. What happens if a barrel of oil goes to $300 a barrel?
Well, going back to the original vote, I don't think they legally could extend the vote. I've never heard of that being done before.
Well, you could change the rules if you don't get what you want.
Well, but the rules should be the rules when you start,
Of course.
not when you're done.
Of course.
It just doesn't look good. And I would just, as a matter of fact, let me tell you, we elect representatives to be on the board of directors. Everybody that lives in these communities where Valley Electric services and provides power, the people can vote for who will be on the board of directors.
Well, not the people, the meter holder. You
Yeah,
get
well,
one vote for 1 meter.
Yeah, but,
Yeah.
well, no, if you have 5 meters but you're one person, you still only get 1 vote.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah,
Okay, but you don't get 5 votes if there's 5 people in the house.
Right.
Okay.
right.
So you're,
It's per household.
well, is it maybe if it's under different names? Like, say that there's people that have rentals and they have them under corporations, they would get different votes.
That I don't know because the corporation owns it, and I'm not sure that a corporation can vote as a single entity.
Yes,
Who would be the voter?
the person who's in charge of that corporation.
No,
I'll
they've
give-
never told us that.
Well, I'll give you, for instance,
I hope you do.
okay, my electric, I don't own my house, but the electric is under a corporation.
Pauper.
Right. The corporation gets the letter, actually comes to ADG Real Estate. And there's a person who's authorized to sign that. Now, because I live here and the property owners live in New York, I'm the person that's allowed to sign for the corporation on Valley Electric.
Well, I've never inquired at Valley Electric as to how it would work with multiple corporations, or if your house is in a trust. If your house is in a trust, you're not the owner, you own the trust owns the house.
Yes, that's
So-
correct. Well, it all depends on how it comes.
Actually, I think it depends on who signed up for the power,
Right.
because it's the power issue, not who owns the unit. So if you're a renter and you signed up for power for your rental unit, you have a right to vote.
Yes.
Yeah,
If the power is under your name, you're a voter,
yeah.
whether you own the house or not. So there's another problem. You have a person who has power, but they don't own the house, they're going to be willing to sell and get the $579.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
They don't care. So anyway, that's kind of the issue going on here right now, and I'm sure within the next few days, with the press that's being made by the Valley Electric employees, that they'll get enough of the yes votes. I just feel that the discussion was not, and there have been several meetings that they did put on, but there were cases when the answers were not clear. And some people are just voting because they want the $579.
Correct.
That's it.
That's correct, because don't forget, we said this is a rural community, most people are working for minimum wage. $579 is more than most people make in 2 weeks here.
But you have to think about what the future holds. I have one theory here, and this is why I'm torn between voting for it and not voting for it. I believe as more solar power and other types of energy come online that you can actually have at your house, like in a rural community like this, where most people live on an acre or more, that you could put solar power in your home and you'd be off the grid. This is the grid that Valley Electric controls. Once you come off the grid and you're self-contained, you don't need Valley Electric. Now, if that's going to happen in the next 10 or 20 years, maybe we ought to sell off the power lines. And maybe Valley Electric won't even exist as we see it today because of those changes coming down the pike.
Well, Valley Electric,
We have people already that are off the grid.
yes, but Valley Electric will always be there to provide to whatever commercial entities are here, because they can't put enough of solar to run their stuff.
Well, to me, the big deal is if this was to take place and Valley Electric went into the business of maintaining power lines that other people own, it would be a profit center for them. And we are being told they're being looked on favorably to maintain other owners' power lines. Now, if that's the case, that would bring money into Valley Electric. But what we don't want to see is to build an empire. We don't live here to build an empire. We came here because it was a rural community, and we liked it to stay that way. So, and that's a question that takes us into the next topic that we promised we would talk about, is water.
And before we stop with this, I just wanted to say that I truthfully believe that they're setting up not to have debt, because I think a regular electric company is going to buy this co-op out. That's my feeling. They're moving to not being a co-op. The next step will be everybody's going to get $1,200 because we're going to sell out to an electric company. That's the next step.
Well, you know, there is that proposition, I think it's number 3 on the ballot here in Nevada, to change the Nevada Constitution to allow homeowners and property owners, or anyone, to buy their electricity from wherever they can get it as to meet their needs.
Yes.
And if that happens, then what would be the position of Valley Electric?
And that's actually happened in Vegas. The Wynn Casino actually they wanted to remove themselves from NV Energy, which used to be Nevada Power, NV Energy, and they had to pay $90 million to unplug from NV Energy. Just think about it. They had to pay $90 million to get away from that power company.
Now, if we could do another segment on this, and if anybody out there would like to come and become part of our YouTube sequence, you can call us on 775, do I dare?
Go ahead.
727-8771. That's my home number. I'll usually pick up, and if not, I do have an answering machine. If you leave me your name and number, we'll call you back. And maybe we could do a show out of your garage. And you can be in the video and tell us how you feel.
Yeah, no script. You come on, you turn around and tell us, and tell the people out there exactly how you feel.
And if you think 15 minutes is too long, it'll seem like nothing, believe me. Okay, so let's go and talk a little bit about the water here, Anthony.
Okay.
Originally, when I went to move here, I really like living here. It's laid back for the most